am so happy to bring out this next guest here at Reason Rally. In 2012, she founded an organization dedicated to raising awareness of legislative attempts to block women's reproductive freedoms all across this country. Before that, she was co-creator and head writer of The Daily Show. A fine stand-up comedian and a beautiful human being. Ladies and gentlemen, Lizz Winstead!
We're gonna do a selfie with you, so everybody wave. Awesome, thanks. Hi, you guys. Oh my God, I am so thrilled and delighted to be here. I wanted to be here in 2012, and I was doing some work for Lady Parts Justice, which is our organization. Go over in the tent, say hi. But this year, having it be, being a reproductive rights advocate, I don't know if you've heard, but there's some religious pushback on that, and I always find it astounding when we talk about evolution, and if you're on Twitter, it can shake your core value about evolution, because there are a lot of trolls, and you're like, maybe evolution passed some people by, and I think they're on Twitter, because I have many experiences on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. I like to talk about reproductive rights and justice on Twitter, and I also love to live tweet things. And when Bill Nye, the science guy, who will be up later, was debating Ken Ham from the Creation Museum, the debate was whether or not the Earth is 6,000 years old. So I'm on Twitter, and I'm like, the whole thing is sort of awkward because fire was invented 10,000 years ago. So I decided to just tweet that out there, and some people were not psyched, and so all of a sudden in my Twitter mention, someone just says, whore. And I was like, actually, I know a lot of sex workers who love science, but, and this is where we differ as reasonable people, is I just didn't understand the reason this person said whore. I wasn't offended, I was just like curious. So I was like, even if I did have a job where all day long I got paid to have sex with strangers, you'd still be wrong. To which he replied, whore. And I was like, okay, you don't know me, but what's your beef? I kept going, and he's like, well, I just don't think that I should have to pay for your birth control. My religion says I shouldn't have to pay for your birth control, I shouldn't have to indulge your birth control. And I was like, that is maybe the big dividing line for me, because you don't want to pay for my birth control, but I would pay any amount for yours. Because it's so obvious. Again, we are reasonable people. We are practical people. We all know we do not lead religion or the government to regulate our bodies. We have Activia for that. Why is this hard? But after that kind of crazy online confrontation and watching Bill Nye and the Creation Museum dude, I was completely 100% inspired to go to the Creation Museum, which I highly recommend you go for a couple of reasons. One, they teach a lot of stuff you don't learn like in school. Or if you're just interested in seeing a dinosaur with a saddle. But from the second you walk in, it is this crazy testament to bizarro world. There's a giant Garden of Eden setting, and it has Adam and Eve, and they sort of look like hipsters from Portland. And they're surrounded by all of the things in the garden. There's the dinosaur, And then there's the fox and the penguin that all cohabitated at the same time in the garden. And you're like, well, that doesn't seem like that works. But why explain anything? But they do try to explain some things that are pretty incredible. They have a display that's a partial arc. And they're building a bigger, expansive arc project, which I'm sure many of you know about. And it's an arc, that arc. And the taxpayers of Kentucky are paying for it. But what's amazing about the arc is a lot of stuff I didn't know. First of all, when they have the arc completed, they call it a jobs program. And one of the jobs you can apply for is person who didn't make it on the arc, who screams in the water begging to get on. Yeah, so I don't know if there's benefits. I'm sure you can find something out on the website. But those people who didn't make it onto the ark, you will learn at the Creation Museum, are why we have fossil fuel. Yeah. But my favorite part of the entire Creation Museum experience is, as you can imagine, there's a lot of Eve blaming. Before Eve did that apple business, apparently life was perfect. So a couple of things they have on big plaques is, before Eve ate the apple, all animals were vegetarians. And she turned them into wild, monstrous, animal-eating enemies. But my favorite thing, and I really need you to stay with me as I tell you this. Big plaque that says, before Eve ate the apple, are you with me? Childbirth was painless. Now I want you to think about all those children mentioned in the Bible before Adam and Eve. So even in their own story, it's like, wait, was there other kids in the... No? Weird? Because I was brought up Catholic. And it was, when you were brought up a poor Catholic, your poor mother doesn't realize you're going to have to go to public school and be exposed to reality at some point. So I went to Catholic school, and we had a sex ed class that was basically a movie that was distracting with an animation of something that was inside of a woman that looked like a ram's head. And then there was a cartoon penis that somehow ended up and was shooting footballs into the... I didn't understand a thing I was watching. But they were definitive in that ram's head and that penis and those footballs was how kids happened, right? I was like, okay, all right. So I go home, and children are awesome because if things aren't practical, they will question. We should listen to children all the time because they would really solve a lot of this problem very quickly because they're just like, I don't get it. This doesn't make sense. So I was one of those, I don't get it, this doesn't make sense. So I said, Mom, the Bible says that there's Adam and Eve, and they had 3 kids. And she's like, that's right. And I said, okay, but I just went to this class where there was the ram's head and the penis and the footballs, and they say that's how kids are made. And she goes, that's also right. And I was like, so did the ram's head thing with the penis, is that how I was made? And she said, yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, Adam and Eve had 3 sons. She goes, uh-huh. And I said, innocently, so did the sons have sex with the mom to have more kids? And then she panicked because science, and didn't know what to do. And you know how when your parents are searching for some reason to not talk to you? She goes, oh, no, they just pulled more ribs. And I was like, well then, did they have sex with their cousins? And then she just turned on the vacuum. And that was the end of that. She started vacuuming. Vacuuming the truth as that happens. But I have to tell you one story before I go, which is kind of where I wish our country would head, because it was one of those amazing moments when you talk to a stranger and their reality is so pure. I'm from Minnesota, born and raised. And a couple of years back, Minnesota tried to put one of those hateful anti-marriage equality amendments into their constitution. And so I went back to go stumping door to door to talk to people about keeping the amendment off the ballot and why it was important that we let our LGBT brothers and sisters get married. So I go knock on this door, and this woman opens it up, and she goes, "Oh, hi, how are you? Come on in." And then I walk in, and she goes, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Probably should have asked me before you let me in, but all right." And I said, "I'm here to talk to you about Amendment 1 and why it's important for a better Minnesota." And she goes, "Oh, you know, I was reading all about that, and I feel super conflicted." And I was like, "Oh, what do you suppose you're conflicted about?" And she said, "Well, you know, I'm not sure I'm okay with two guys getting married, but I don't want to be a jerk about it." And I was like, that is where I would like us to get, is like, I don't care what you believe, just please don't be a jerk about it. That is my time. You guys are lovely. Come visit us over at the tent, Lady Parts Justice. Thank you.
Lizz Winstead. Please go check out the Lady Parts Justice table at the booth, not the abortion booth. No.